Hi, my name is Sergio Gago. I am the Quantum Pirate and the Managing Director of Quantum Computing and AI at Moody's, and you're listening to the Quantum Spin by HKA.
Hello, I'm Veronica Combs. Today I'm talking to a person who works with quantum algorithms and tracks the news of the industry in his popular newsletter, Quantum Pirates. He has deep experience in technology, but at the same time, he's not afraid to poke a little bit of fun at the industry. So, Sergio, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Veronica, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be talking in your podcast.
You have a degree in telecom engineering, you have an MBA, and I know that you've also studied quantum computing and quantum information systems, founded and run and sold your own companies. How did you end up in quantum computing at Moody's?
That is a fantastic question. So I've been an engineer for a long time. My usual job was Chief Technology Officer. But about 5 years ago, I decided that that was not enough. So I sold one of my companies and I thought, I need to learn something new, right? So I decided to study biocomputing, finding patterns and building the automation for the biologists to find those relationships on those patterns. Computer scientists, we are kind of the lab assistants to the biologist. They are the smart people. They are the ones whose first name appears on the paper because they know what's actually happening with the cells, the viruses, the bacteria, and all that. And I recall very well one class, we were with a professor, and he said, well, we have to find that pattern in a very complicated problem for our computers to tackle. But there is this company in Canada that has a quantum computer available, and maybe you can drop this problem into their system, and maybe you can fix it or solve it exponentially. So of course my mind exploded because I thought quantum was something for the future. I went into that rabbit hole, and kind of the rest is history. So I decided to stay in Moody's, and I convinced the CEO of the company that quantum was something very, very relevant for the financial industry. And as it turns out, it indeed is. And we can talk in a minute about some of the cool stuff that we are doing.
Your weekly Substack newsletter, Quantum Pirates, is definitely one of the must-reads in the industry. I know that everyone, looks forward to their Sunday edition to see what news you've highlighted. So how did you start the newsletter?
It's quite interesting because I never thought it would be as big as it became today. And now I go to conferences and people say, oh, you're Sergio, you're the Quantum Pirates. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I'm not a journalist. I'm not specialist in communications. I'm not even English native, right? But it all started as my own work, to stay on top of what is going on in the industry. One of the things I love the most about quantum is how many things happen every week. How fast things go, both on industry and research. And it was a way to kind of organize my ideas and what was really relevant. So what I did was build an internal workflow where whenever I found an article or a paper that I thought, hey, this is really interesting and I would like to share it with my friends, I basically built a workflow that clicked on that and saved that article. And then on a Sunday, I would take all those articles together, curate them, and then write these 2 or 3 paragraphs where I try to be a little bit fun, a little bit snarky, summarize things. And then there is a lot of hype, and there is a lot of duplicity. So one of the things that I am doing the most is kind of selecting or curating things that I believe could be relevant for anyone in the industry, no matter where they work. The newsletter has been growing and growing and growing. We're over 150 editions now. One of the reasons for that is that I have been publishing it every week, no matter what. Now we have a small army of several thousand people reading it every week.
That workflow sounds really fantastic. I'll have to, in all my years of writing, I've not come up with anything quite that good. I do really like your sense of humor.
I was trying to be a little bit funny on what is going on with the industry, either by building some stupid memes or something like that.
You're poking fun at the whole, let's pivot to AI for all the quantum companies. And that was definitely a joke that needed to be made. So I'm glad that somebody did it.
Even from Moody's perspective, we talk with many, many financial institutions, some of them with quantum teams. And we do see a pivot on companies moving their focus, their budget, and their efforts into generative AI. First of all, because it is horizon now. Right? This is happening. This is real. This is something tangible. And second, I think because quantum has had a lot of false expectations on what you could do quickly. maybe by hype feeders that were looking more for the short-term type of thing. So that did not happen. And we're now at the point where some people are even saying, hey, maybe we are starting to see the infamous quantum winter of sorts. I personally have my hesitation on calling it a quantum winter.
Hmm.
We try to be as neutral and balanced as possible on, yes, you need to invest in quantum today, but not
Yes.
for the hype reasons.
I mean, all technology has a ramp up phase, but quantum's is, I mean, I dare say a little steeper, a little longer than most. So like you said, you have to start now just getting the basics.
We see every day new, really interesting stuff from we are correcting codes, there are breakthroughs on the amount of physical qubits that we need, to new ways of implementing the qubits themselves, all the way to new ways of implementing the algorithms. So I'm personally optimistic, or better say carefully optimistic, and that is the reason why I think companies should be investing in quantum now, right? Since we are not a quantum company, but we understand quantum, a lot of our clients, they are classical clients, the ones who buy our data and our products, come
Hmm.
to us with questions like, how should we approach quantum computing? Or I started doing this research. I was promised quantum advantage, but it did not happen. What should I do next? So a lot of people are reaching out to us because they trust Moody's. And now we tell them, look, you can also trust us to be your advisors or even your guides in the complex field of quantum for data and risk analysis and software for the financial industry, but also insurance, weather modeling and prediction, and so on and so forth. We try to use the best tools available, whatever is at the edge, to build those models, because those solutions are what we in turn sell to other companies in the industry, other banks, and so on. So at the end of the day, is a company with heap lots of data, lots of calculations on that data, and lots of modeling. If you want to run an accurate calculation of how much of your debt could be at risk, or how much of your equity could be at risk, how much of your portfolio could be at risk, you basically simulate billions of scenarios. Which one is
Right.
going to default here, there, and what are the correlations between those defaults? Throwing dice. That's what Monte Carlo simulations are,
Right.
quote unquote. I'm oversimplifying. So yes, we have an algorithm. We have quantum amplitude estimation that is quite old already as an algorithm, but that's the one that promises certain quadratic speed up on that calculation. I say certain because there's a lot of quotes and notes and asterisks
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
But in principle, that is the case, right? Our goal is to build things that are integratable.
Mhm.
So even if it's with very small problems, with very small complexity, how would that work in the whole pipeline? So you can actually demo it, you can show it to people.
It is such a dynamic industry, like your newsletter reflects. But also, I was talking to a physicist the other day, and he said, well, we're making advances and it's going along, but the classical guys, they're just making advances too. And so we're trying to keep up with them, and it's kind of a back and forth. And there is that extra, I mean, obviously quantum computing relies tremendously on classical computing now, but even the advances with the supercomputers is another sort of force shaping the quantum industry.
All the stuff that we are learning classically and how the race is pushing everyone, classical development will impact heavily quantum and vice versa, especially when we mix the fields of machine learning and so on.
And it is definitely a challenge to look ahead far enough to see what's possible, what's in the future. But then again, you do have to watch out for the hype. And I'm curious if do you have sort of a checklist you run through mentally, or how do you like filter those articles or those promises that seem a little too a little too shaky, or too much air and not enough actual substance?
I think the only way to really grasp whether something is real or not is by doing it yourself. So you need to do the work. You need to run your own algorithms. You need to code them to start seeing the true limitations. You need to run an algorithm on a 127 qubit device with its noise
Mhm.
and see how that noise really destroys all the beautiful work that you've done mathematically, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it is really frustrating. A lot of the people who make those claims, the hype claims, can be divided into the ones who claim that because they don't really know what is going on underneath, the ones who didn't do the work, right? And the other ones are the ones who are proactively being false about, so they know very well that there is no such thing or such advantage. I can handle one or the other, but you have to be very, very careful with that. Now, from a corporation perspective, when you decide to invest in quantum, you have to position yourself as well on what do you want to do. And when you try to convince your CEO or your board that this is a true investment, do you want to play this short-term game and promise ROI out of thin air? Or
Mm-hmm.
do you want to build kind of the long path? What I try to look at is when there's a company in front of me, what is for them on something specific on quantum? And most of the companies in our field today really depend heavily on quantum happening. If quantum does not happen, they would disappear, right? There are other companies like Google or IBM whose business is not necessarily quantum. They
Right.
heavily invest on this. They see that as the next generation, but for them is one additional tool. So they tend to be less biased on what is going
Mm-hmm.
on and what happens. Even though with Google, of course, there's a lot of conversations on their announcements and their claims, but
Right. Right.
usually they're more on the conservative side, usually, not always. And then companies like us, for example, at the Moody's, believe that quantum computing will be a very disruptive force in the financial industry, but like many other technologies. And we turn every stone on behalf of our clients. If quantum does not happen to be the one, it's okay because we have other bets.
What comes to my mind is explainability then. Like, how do you explain how this works, or how do you even explain the results working with people who, like you said, don't have degrees in physics?
That is a fantastic question. And I think it's fundamental to leave the scientific realm a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and be able to explain things in a very down to earth language that is related to what a company needs. Benchmarking the enterprise way. So
Mm-hmm.
if you think about the algorithms, the benchmark is going to be like the number of T gates, but the reality is that on the enterprise, no one cares about it. In the same way that people don't care how the cloud works. What matters is whether you have a process that is faster, more accurate, or cheaper to run than any other way of running it. Now I have a problem that I know it can have 25% better accuracy, or they can run 10 times faster. But in order to run it at scale with the size of data that we need, I'm going to need, I don't know, 700 logical qubits. And that is what we're trying to build with a product that we're about to launch. We're calling it internally for now Quantum for Finance platform, and we'll be able to tell more about this very soon. But basically is about dropping your different classical solvers, quantum inspired solvers, HPC, you name it, and be able to benchmark and compare against the same enterprise metrics. And those are the numbers that your C-level execs will understand, right? And how you validate these type of things. That's all we need to know now, because financial institutions don't really care when there is quantum advantage. We don't mind. The only thing that we care about is that we are right there when it happens and
Yeah.
that we are prepared.
Right.
A lot of people ask me, is that the usual question, right? When do you think there's going to be quantum advantage? And I always say the same thing. Number one, I don't know. Number two, there is no quantum advantage as a whole. There may be advantage for one very specific problem. And number three, I don't care. I I only care that I am there when that happens, right?
Can you share any advice on putting together a quantum team for an industry expert like Moody's?
Instead of focusing on deep research, on hiring PhDs to keep them working on a very specific problem or a part of the problem and then coming out with a paper and publish it, we decided to be a very pragmatic and application first team. We opted for more jack of all trades profiles.
Oh, okay.
When I started hiring people, what I told them was, in the morning, you may be talking with a quant that's going to explain you a very complex and difficult way on how they calculate risk using a research thing that they did 20 years ago. Then you're going to speak with the product people on how they implemented it on a piece of software that we have in the market. Then you're going to have a call with a client who has absolutely no idea about quantum, and you will have to start with the whole Archimedes a bit, but with superposition. Then you may have to go and give a talk to a group of students who are a little bit more knowledgeable. And finally, you will start your IDE, your coding, and maybe if you have time after doing the research, you will, I don't know, publish a paper or write all the documentation for a grant and so on and so forth. Normally, it's the other way around. So normally you hire one person for each of the 10 different things that I just mentioned here. It is really important to understand the whole pipeline. Now that the industry is getting a little bit more mature, we start getting a lot of questions from people, from banks, saying, okay, you convinced me. I want to do this. So what do I do now? This is the profile for the team lead that you need, someone who's both business and science and engineering. You need a team lead who's also kind of more on the research side. Then you need a programmer. You need someone with infrastructure knowledge. You set up your cloud environment. If you work with AWS Bracket, for example, or with Azure. So another of the products that we're releasing very soon is a Quantum for Quants and Data Scientist program, which is basically all you need to know, all you need to learn in order to upskill your team. And now we're kicking it off with building your quantum team and spreading the voice in different conferences.
Well, it sounds like a fascinating team of really smart people doing very challenging work.
It is a fantastic team. I'm super happy and very honored.
Well, in your spare time, which I can't imagine there's a whole lot of it, you are working at Barcelona Technology School with the Masters of Big Data and AI program. So what's it like working with students?
I think it's humbling. Getting the students helps you, get down to back to your roots and meet a lot of amazing people that are going to be the leaders of the world tomorrow. Hopefully, some of them my bosses.
Well, thank you again for all your time today. It's been great to hear about your work, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on Moody's and the platform for quants to bring them into the quantum world. Thanks so much for all your time, Sergio. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Have a great day.